A significant step towards strengthening relationships between municipalities and First Nations communities in Saskatchewan took place in Saskatoon this month. The Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association, known as SUMA, and the Office of Treaty Commissioner have formalized a new partnership through a signing of a memorandum of understanding. Now, this agreement was signed following a traditional pipe ceremony at the Office of the Treaty Commissioner, with Treaty Commissioner Dr. Kathy Walker and SUMA President Randy Goulden representing the two organizations. Now, the MOU commits both parties to working together to deepening understanding of treaty rights and advancing truth and reconciliation within Saskatchewan's urban municipalities. It also aims to support stronger, more collaborative relationships between First Nations and local governments. Now, as President Randy Goulden noted at the event, municipalities and First Nations have been neighbors long before Saskatchewan became a province. This new collaboration seeks to ensure that municipal leaders have the knowledge and tools necessary to work alongside First Nation partners in pursuing shared priorities. Today, we unpack that with SUMA President Randy Goulden. We unpack the MOU, how it came about, and what work can municipalities start today to ensure stronger working relationships with First Nation partners. All that and more after this commercial break here on Municipal Affairs.
You stepped up to serve your community. Now take your leadership to the next level. Introducing GEMS, Governance Essentials for the Municipal Sector, a practical, Saskatchewan-based training program designed for council members and those who support them. Whether newly elected or a seasoned leader, GEMS helps sharpen the skills that matter most: decision-making, accountability, financial stewardship, infrastructure oversight, and navigating the complex realities of municipal governance. This isn't your typical classroom. GEMS is flexible, online, and built for busy people. You don't need a university degree, just a commitment to good governance. For some, it's been years since taking a course. That's okay. GEMS is designed to build confidence and knowledge. There is a short assessment, but it's there to reinforce your learning, not to trip you up. If cost is a concern, talk to your administrator, as there may be grants available to offset some of the costs. Because when local leaders grow, entire communities benefit. GEMS, because good governance isn't just important, it's essential.
President Goulden, thank you so much for chatting with us today about the most recent MOU that was signed between SUMA and the Treaty Office, the Treaty Commissioner's Office. I want to start, if you don't mind, by explaining the significance, if you can, of this MOU and what it represents for SUMA and Saskatchewan's urban municipalities.
Well, thanks, Chris, for doing this and having us talk about the importance of a signing of the MOU with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner. And before I start, I want to say congratulations. I understand that you've been nominated by the Podcast Association of Canada, and I want to say thank you. I think they've now recognized what we already know. You are already a winner in our hearts here in Saskatchewan and across Canada.
Well, thank you so much, Randy. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about SUMA. So explain, if you can, how this MOU came about.
Well, Chris, as SUMA has been representing our members right across Saskatchewan, became very evident of the need to continue our work with our First Nations across this province. So I really want to thank our administration, our team at the SUMA office, and also the team at the Office of the Treaty Commissioner for working together to bringing us to the day last Monday where we sat down. We had a pipe ceremony, we had a smudge, and we really talked about working together. And what does this mean? What are we going to do? Well, we're really going to promote an understanding of the treaty rights that are here in our province, and the truth and reconciliation among Saskatchewan's urban municipalities and what that means to us, and how do we need to work together to bring that to fruition, to really understand the relationship building between First Nations and our urban municipalities.
So, what motivated this MOU? Was it SUMA or was it the Office of the Commissioner? What was the motivation behind this MOU? Because in a press release that was posted on social media, or a social media post, I should say, you're quoted as saying that First Nations and municipalities have been working together long before Saskatchewan was ever a province, and that's true. So, why was it important in 2025 to sign this MOU, and what is the relevance of it today?
I think the importance means that this is something that we now have in writing before us, and it's an agreement to continue the work we've been doing with some objectives that we have before us. So that we can actually now monitor what we're doing and evaluate what we're doing and improve in what we're doing, because we know there are so many different groups and organizations that are doing this work. But what we want to, as SUMA, make certain that we know is, where are we going? How are we going to get there? And when will we know that? And how will we monitor that? And I can say that after we signed the MOU, we sat down around the table and had some good discussions on things that we are looking to work together over the next 4 or 5 years.
Now, the provincial government and the federal government have both looked at the relationships between First Nations and their surrounding communities as a not a prerequisite, but as a sort of a nod to say, if you want to apply for grant funding, you need to work with the regional collaboration through rural municipalities, First Nations. Does
Yeah.
this strengthen that potential partnership to look at the shared similarities and shared challenges that First Nations and urban municipalities may have when approaching the federal or provincial government on wastewater treatment facility plans, on rec facilities? Is this a step in that direction as well?
I think we all share in the responsibility of providing quality of life and jobs for the people that live in our jurisdictions, and that might be in our urban communities, it might be in the province, and it might mean in the country. But we know all of that work intersects constantly. So we're looking at continuing this work. Recently, SUMA signed a agreement with the Saskatchewan Economic Developers Association. And being at that conference for several days, we soon learned that our First Nations are looking to partner with economic development in our communities. They want to play a role, and we're seeing that already. But this formalizes it. So it always is top of mind. Have we done the work with our First Nations around us? Have we consulted properly? Do we know what the treaties really mean? And that's what we're looking to bring to SUMA. And some of the things, Chris, that we're looking to do and working with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner, for instance, is education. I think education awareness is so important. So really providing that to our SUMA staff, our board members, our members. And we've already done some of that with a webinar that the OTC was involved in a few years ago. But we need to increase that and really share, information within all our networks. So that's the Office of the Treaty Commissioner sharing in their networks, we share in our networks, but also understanding that we have the correct, consistent messages so that we're always telling our stories in the way that they should be told.
Can I play a little bit of a devil's advocate if you with you for a second? Does this, it sounds like this is about strengthening the relationship. Was the relationship faltered prior to the signing, or is this just a re-strengthening of the relationship between First Nations and municipalities?
Um, in my opinion, Chris, it was always strong, but it was in the beginning of a good relationship. And in any relationships, it can be with our partners, in relationships in our homes, it can be with our business relationships. You always have to look to how you can improve it, because status quo in our world today is not on.
So how do you envision this MOU helping municipalities, both big and small, whether it be the city of Yorkton or the town of East End, Saskatchewan, Lloydminster, Saskatchewan, all the way up to Frog Lake? How do you see this MOU helping individual municipalities better understand treaty rights? And you talk about the education portion of it. Is this something that individual municipalities will have to deal with themselves, or is SUMA going to be leading that education? How do I word education sort of path down the road of reconciliation?
Well, we know that SUMA is a leader providing services to our municipalities. I'm envisioning this again, SUMA will take a lead role, but that's only bringing things to the municipalities, and it's up to them to decide where they want to go. And I really, we will be working with the OTC in different events that SUMA will be doing, different activities. So our municipalities will have the information to make their decisions and help them along the path. We also know that it's been a year now since the passing of Murray Sinclair, who was instrumental in the process of truth and reconciliation in this country. And we want to honor him and honor, the recommendations that he brought forward that directly are impacting our municipalities. They're outlined there. And I would ask all our municipalities to take a look at them and see, where there's work needed. And hopefully SUMA can help guide that, but only in partnership with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner.
So many municipalities may be in different stages of their reconciliation journey between First Nations and their own individual municipalities. For yourself, and I'm going to sort of localize it for a second, for the city of Yorkton, what does this MOU mean that can help the city of Yorkton strengthen your relationships with surrounding First Nations?
Yeah. So, Chris, we have some good relationships with the surrounding First Nations, with our tribal council that we have here based out of Yorkton, but you can always improve. And right now, the city of Yorkton, we have had a long standing with urban reserves who are based, those urban reserves are based commercially, and how can we improve that? How can we as a city help with economic development that's going on, around in our First Nations communities around us? They have been excellent partners, and with that, I would see as the city of Yorkton's role, how can we be better partners? Because we know that there are challenges. And I look to some of our communities that have already been doing some great work. And we know that former Mayor of Saskatoon, Charlie Clark, is doing some work with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner and some of the case studies that we'll be seeing that hopefully can help other municipalities. But for instance, we know Yorkton is looking at a new sewage treatment plant to support the industrial growth that we're seeing in our community. And I look no further than conversations with some of our northern municipalities, and I look to Larange, Air Larange, and Lac La Ronge Indian Band, and the work that they did, building a new water treatment plant that is better for all three of them, because individually they could not have built what they did, but together they're much stronger and they have a much better facility that's going to last longer. So for the city of Yorkton, and I know that our Mayor Aaron Keenley, has worked very hard in developing those partnerships, and hopefully some of the resources now that we can deliver with this new MOU can even strengthen that further.
So we talk about the different stages that many municipalities may be at. For the communities that are working alongside SUMA, the urban municipalities that are under SUMA's umbrella, that may feel uncertain about where the first step is. What is the first step
Yeah.
on the path of reconciliation and learning about truth and reconciliation and learning about the Office of Treaty Commissioner?
Yeah.
What is your message as president on to those mayors, to those councillors, on taking that first step in true partnerships with our First Nations, with First Nations communities across Saskatchewan when it comes to reconciliation and partnerships?
Well, Chris, the first step is always learning and listening. And that's a role that SUMA will always take on, is providing those educational opportunities. And in my conversations with, Dr. Walker, who is the treaty commissioner here in our province, very, very open to doing those things. Very open to working with SUMA to provide whatever is necessary. So those are the things that we're going to be sitting down and working together on. And bringing in, as you know, we have our new board and bylaws and governance and our caucuses. So I'm very willing and I'm very eager to hear from our caucuses, hear what the villages see that first step to being, hear what our towns, hear what our cities, and really hearing what our northern municipalities are going to be saying after this is going to be on agendas that we're going to be talking on. Because it's one thing, Chris, for me to sit here as the president of SUMA and say, this is the first step. But we can't do that without the input from all our caucuses. And that's why they're there. To provide direction to SUMA on to see what are the best resources, the best steps, and what's the best way to work together.
So while the journey begins with a first step,
Mhm.
success means the journey is complete. And with reconciliation, the journey will never be complete because we're always learning, we're always adapting. If we were to have this conversation in 1 year's time, President, what would a successful first year of this MOU look like for the partnership between SUMA and the Office of the Treaty Commissioner? And what do you see your role as president in ensuring that that success continues to unfold, even when some days it may not be the top of mind for some municipalities, but it's always in the back of your head?
Well, Chris, you know me as an optimistic person. And what my wish would be, what I would like to see, is that in a year's time when and I'm sure that you, you will put this in your day timer and hold me to this, is that we've engaged as many as of our members, as our communities as we can. And also through that with First Nations too. So what my role is, we've already had some of these discussions. We have some opportunities coming forward in the early part of 2026. Hard to believe we're talking 2026 already. But in January, we're going to host our virtual summit with our members. I see this being on the agenda. Then we have our convention, our conference in April. And I know that the Office of the Treaty Commissioner and SUMA will be presenting on this to our full membership. Then we have the Regional Roadshow happening in June. This again will be on the agendas. And then we have Mayor's School happening in August. Again, it's going to be on the agenda. So in what would the president like to see happen? I'd like to see as much engagement as we possibly can through the caucuses and through meeting directly with our members.
Is that also inviting First Nation leaders to those conferences to have those conversations? Because relationships needs to be built, and you can't just
Yep,
assume that every municipal leader is going to do it themselves. And
yep,
not saying that they won't, but will
yep.
there be invitations sent out to First Nations communities to start fostering that relationship internally as well?
Well, that's what I would hope that we will get to in the future. But again, Chris, we signed this MOU with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner, and I don't want to impose what I think is correct. I would look to, Commissioner Dr. Walker and the wonderful people that she works with to see where we go with that.
So my final question, President, and it's about just not municipal governments and the municipal councils, but it's about the communities that our mayors, our councilors serve. What would you say to residents across Saskatchewan who live in urban municipalities about the importance of understanding treaties as living agreements that shape our relationships today?
Well, those treaty rights were here many, many more years before we were. And it's very important as we look back to our history, which is current right now. We're living our history. And we know that we use that history to improve our lives, to always learn from. And I would say to our members, please take a look at that. I had many wonderful opportunities to speak with my grandfather in our language that I grew up with, which was Ukrainian. And we had many good conversations about his life in Ukraine and why they chose to come to Canada. And I believe those things are still very relevant. And when you come to Canada, we move on to a land that we already had peoples here. And how do we make it better, but living with all the history that's here and everything that prepared us for what we have? Because we're only here for a short time and we want to make sure that we honor what we have.
President Goulden, it is always a pleasure, you and I, to sit down and talk about what is going on in SUMA. I know this will not be the last conversation you and I have before 2025 is out. So I appreciate all the time that you give me. And thank you so much for sitting down and chatting to me, to the audience, and to the people of
Yeah.
Saskatchewan about this MOU that SUMA signed. So thank you so much.
And thank you, Chris. I always look forward to chatting. And since I was talking about my grandfather that really influenced my life, I'm going to say to you in my Ukrainian language, do побачення.
From the smallest villages to the largest cities, every day your urban municipality supports you. The water that travels from tap to sewer, the emergency services that keep you safe, the parks, libraries, and rinks that you enjoy, our cities, towns, villages, resort villages, and northern municipalities are urban hubs bringing people together. We are urban. Celebrate your municipality as part of the urban family.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights. If you want to learn more about today's sponsor, Johnson SUMA Graduate School of Public Policy, be sure to visit the links in the show notes below to learn more about the great programs they offer to help your career in public administration. Now, your support means the world to us, so share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we will be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.